This one starts in Mohawk Correctional Facility, early 90s. A riot had just occurred when I had got there. Things were still hot. Things had changed. The facility was split, A side, B side. And the politic had it that Albany had the memorandum set out that now gang beads were now illegal. It was now an offense to have gang beads. And when they made that memorandum, they pretty much wiped out, or thought that they wiped out, the majority of the gang problem. What they were doing was they will give you a search in your cube or your cell, and instead of looking for weapons, now they started looking for gang articles, anything that had any insignia of any gangs, any colors, anything, so that they can give you an infraction and give you a one-way ticket up to your classification, which you go up to a max. And I was getting caught up right in the middle. I was right in the middle of that politics. So in Mohawk, I got there, first of all, I got there from a camp. I got there from a minimum. And I made my way up to a medium, just to show you how the rules and the laws were changing things quick. It was formed that way, so it could build up your classification so that you end up in the max somewhere, and the parole board can hit you with more time for you being a destructive and not adhering to the rules and regulation of the department. It was all a setup. I could have seen how the problem got out of hand with the beads, because now everybody wanted to rock beads. Everybody wanted to go to sleep and wake up with beads on. And that was kind of being strenuous on the rest of the population. It was like rubbing it in your face. That's why it is said that the kings were the oppressors at one time, was taking advantage of that opportunity of their strength, the show of force, and was handling down some force and was really outnumbering situations. So in Mohawk, I came across an individual, bro. His name was King Indio Colon. He wasn't like any other bro that I have ever met up until that point. He was like about it. He was what he called noble. He was really into the gang politic. Before that, it was more like social, everybody getting along, playing with baseball games against the Nietas or against the 5percenters or the Muslims. And this is what was going on in the camps. Okay? Springtime comes along, everybody has a softball team. The Kings against the Nietas, the Muslims, so forth and so forth. It was all love. The beef situation, like rubbing it, it was like everywhere you went. Nieta, King Beach. I think the Nieta had the black and white, the Kings, the black and the yellow. But getting back to this individual, King Indio Colon, when I met him, he seemed to be one of the more knowledgeable bros that had knowledge of both Chicago and New York lessons. And he had a lot of knowledge of the biggest leader at the time. And he's a real knowledgeable brother. He ended up being the first crown in Mohawk. And I was like under him. He made me like under him. So I now got ranking. And I'm basically his right hand. We're going to the chapel together. We're going to the school together. You know, like we're like inseparable at this point. I think I was like fourth crown or fifth crown or something like that. But they was really cracking down on the gang and the unity and all of that. Wherever they see numbers And I mean, it was obvious. All you had to do was look at the beads. So whenever they sing numbers, they'll run up, get everybody's numbers, and give them a ticket, hold them in keep lock, or boost their classification up. And this was going on. Now they even made a memo that said that you can't congregate in the yard of 5 or more individuals. Before that, you would see the whole gang, A side, B side, everybody in the same yard, 50, 60, 100. People huddled up in their little gang ciphers, chanting prayers. The scene was out of control. So I can see how other folks felt that there was some real oppression going on. And it was a show of force. It was on full scale. Everybody had a beat. Everybody, mandatory yard. Everybody, come out for this, come out for that. A festival, a fast. Come out for a prayer. So when they implemented these memorandums that came out, by the way, in January of 1994, was when they stopped the beads, they stopped the congregation, they stopped the bull crap to their standards. Or so they thought. This whole new system that the Department of Corrections had worked for a while. That is until they started double bunking and the clusters of inmates started pouring in. Then it backfired later. But we'll get back to that. Just to give you a feel of what a medium facility is, medium security facility is, it's basically a prison that has no walls. It's all gates, fences, and barbed wire. The insides of the dorms are rows of beds which are separated by cubicles. Everything that goes on that shouldn't be going on goes on under the cubicles. Everything goes on under the cubicles. Tattooing, whether it's gambling, or whatever goes on, whatever politic you're into goes on under the cubicle level. That is how you do not get spotted by the correction officers, which is usually at eyes distance. But getting back to the gang culture. In the beginning, things usually start out pretty well. There's usually interaction. It usually take one or two individuals to really reverse things and make things bad for everybody. Um, in this case, everything was going well. Everything was going fine. The individual, Indio Colon, he was the first crown, and he catches a keep lock. And being that I'm part of the structure, when it came time to do meetings, he had this thing about him where he was real cordial with everything. We had this thing where even the way we write letters had to be a certain way on a yellow paper with black and red ink. The way our openings and our closings were, the way our body was structured was very cordial. You had to really watch what you say. You had to use certain words. So being that Indio Colon was on keep lock and he could not communicate himself, he had a stack of papers handed over to me in which he instructed me to read to the bros in the yard in the day of a meeting. The letter must have been like 9 pages long. This guy wanted every I dotted and every T crossed. He was so descriptive in his letter that he passed to me. And I even told him, I said, Indio, man, this is something really long here. You want me to read this in front of everybody in a meeting? And he was like, yeah, do that. And I was like, all right. So I grabbed the papers. I go out to the yard because he was keep locked with the stack of papers. We conduct a meeting and I brought out the letters, and by that time we were broken down into groups of 5, but we was really clustered in like 5, 5, 5, 5. And I gotta come out in the middle. Hear ye, with my scroll, because the higher up king was in his castle. And so I read the paper. It was real standard stuff, but he was real articulate of what he wanted. So I read the letter. And then I put it in my pocket and I proceeded to go back to the house. So apparently when I put those papers in my pocket, I was being eyeballed by the administration up in the tower that followed me through walkie-talkie, through the walkway, all the way to my house, where I went to my cube, took off my jacket, and put it on my cubicle. 5 minutes, 10 minutes into my cubicle, police came right up to my cube, asked me to step out. He said it was a random search. He knew exactly what he was looking for. He was looking for that scroll that I had in the yard that they was watching. On top of that, Mr. Indio had his information, his signature, everything on there. So the letter pointed out to me and him being involved in gang activity. We both go right back into the box in Mohawk Correctional with 180 days to be served because of that letter. Now we're on our way to Southport. This started on a 2 to 4 in a camp. Here I am in a medium on my way to a maxi max.